Hi, Facebook live stream listeners and watchers, actually. Welcome to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio. We are so glad to have you here with us today. And I have a very special guest. It's Father's Day, and we're going to be talking a lot today about dads, about the big job of fatherhood. But my guest in studio today here is Ed Hiner, who combined fatherhood with being a Navy SEAL. He's got an amazing story to tell. Many years of being over 20, how many, Ed?
Over 20, yeah, just
over
over
20 years.
Just over 20.
Say hi to the
Hello, everyone. How are you?
So Ed not only is a SEAL and a dad, now he's a TV star.
Oh, not yet, sort of, no.
Sort of. Well, we'll tell you more about that shortly. But he certainly looks like he could be, right? Okay, so we're going to start the show. Ed's going to just sort of roll to the right now because he's in the second segment, and I will be talking to you in the first segment, and here we go. Can you hit that little green button for me? Perfect. Okay. Welcome to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio. It's Father's Day today, so I want to begin by saying Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. I'm Paula Shaw, an author, a speaker, and a life transitions expert. My work is all about helping people deal with change and the challenges that come with change. And change can be anything. Oftentimes it involves a loss. It could be a death. It could be a divorce. It could be a loss of health. Anything that creates a loss creates change. And as we've said so many times before, we humans have a love-hate relationship with change. We need it, or we don't grow and we get bored, but we hate the discomfort of it. And when we're going through change, life can feel very topsy-turvy, like things are just not the way they were before that was comfortable and that we were used to. And so my work is about helping people to deal with the parts of themselves that may be making those changes more difficult. For example, if you had limiting beliefs from childhood, like you're not enough, or men will always leave me, or something like that, now you're going through a divorce, and it's even more traumatic because that loss has triggered those old subconscious beliefs that have been hanging around. And what we also know now is those limiting beliefs actually create a lot of what we experience in our lives. So I work with people, helping them get through the transitions and also in finding what are those limiting beliefs that are causing them problems. What are the traumas that they may have experienced in childhood that created some of those beliefs or created responses that we tend to have to things. We all know people who really react in a very big, dramatic way about almost everything. And then we know others who are cool, calm, and collected. My guest today is one of those, I think, who, I'm not sure if it was by nature or by training, probably a little bit of both. Ed Hiner was a Navy SEAL for over 20 years. And we're going to be hearing a lot from him about that training. And we'll find out. Was he cool, calm, and collected in the beginning, or did that grow? Also today, I want to just talk a bit about dads. And I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about my dad. By the way, I didn't say that if you have any interest in learning more about my work or getting a hold of me, if you may be somebody who'd like to do some work, you can get a hold of me best at paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com. Okay. Also, if you want to learn more about this show, if you want to listen to past shows, because we've had some amazing guests, or if you heard somebody and you'd like to find out about their contact information, all of that is on changeitupradio.com. changeitupradio.com. You'll find show notes, you'll find all the past shows, and you'll find information about becoming a guest on this show if you should so desire. So, dads, being a dad is a big job. You know, and the concept of dad, I think, has changed a lot over the years because most of us, especially in the boomer generation, are familiar with dad that used to be represented by Father Knows Best and shows like that, where dad was this cool, calm, wonderful fount of wisdom and provider for the family, while mom stayed home with her apron on and cooked fabulous meals and was always there to nurture and console the children. It was all pretty idyllic in the TV shows, but I'm not sure if it was ever actually that way in real life. But dads have always had the job of being protector, provider. But now I think being a dad today involves even more, because I think as a society, we're much more educated about the importance of everything we do with our children, the things we say to them, the way we discipline them, the kind of comfort we provide, the training and the methods we use for training. So I think that being a dad today has changed a lot. Like, I love it when I see a dad jogging down the road pushing the stroller. And I see that more and more. Or when the dads are wearing the baby packs, you know, and carrying the child around as they and the mom are walking on the beach or wherever they might be. I want to tell you a couple of stories about my dad, because I had a really great dad. Some of you may remember him because he did the show a few weeks back on Memorial Day. You may remember my dad is one of the last living veterans of the invasion of Normandy, also known as D-Day. And like our guest today, my dad was a Navy man. And today he actually spends a lot of his time speaking and trying to inspire people, especially those suffering with PTSD, to get help. My dad himself was helped at the Veterans Administration, and he speaks very, very highly of what they offer. So any of you who might be dealing with PTSD, we really encourage you to get help. But besides being in the Navy and being there at that invasion of Normandy, my dad was one of those dads. I always kind of joke and say he was kind of like a walking day camp. I mean, literally every day when he would come home, we would go running out to the car. Daddy, Daddy, Daddy's home. Because my dad would come home and he didn't just put his feet up or kick back and have a beer. My dad would play with us. He would do things with us, you know. He'd hit the ball with us out in the street, or we'd play games, board games, or all kinds of other things like that. But two of my most wonderful memories about my dad I want to share. One was, well, I have to tell you, I was a very, what's the word? I went through a lot of awkwardness when I was growing up. My neck was too long, my hair was too big and curly, my lips were too full. I was not the best looking child. I did not feel great about myself. And there are pictures to prove it, trust me. So I'm outside with my dad one day, and he's watering. And he said to me, he used to call me Poopy. Now, that's not for any reasons any of you might think, but that was his little nickname for me. And this butterfly comes flying by while Dad's watering. And he says to me, Poopy, you see that butterfly? And I said, yeah, it's really beautiful. And he said, it's not as beautiful as you are. And I will never forget that, because I was not beautiful. It was really one of those stages of life where I was not a great looking kid, but my dad thought I was beautiful. And that meant the world to me. And the other thing that I loved about growing up with my dad is he taught me to dance while standing on his feet. So I would stand on his feet and he would do the moves, and he used to love to twirl me, and then he even taught me how to do this little dip thing that was big back in the well, it was probably big in the 40s, but anyway, we would do it. And today I'm going through this phase where I'm a Luther Vandross freak. So I'm constantly listening to Luther Vandross. And one of the songs that he sings that just brings tears to my eyes every time is called Dance with My Father Again. And the song is about him as a young boy and how his father would dance with him. And every time I hear it, I remember standing on my dad's feet and him holding me in dance position and teaching me the steps by just feeling the steps on his feet. I learned the foxtrot, I learned the cha-cha, and I learned the waltz with my dad. And one thing I also know about my dad, because he watches every one of my shows, he's sitting out there right now listening to what I'm saying, and I guarantee you, because it sort of runs in the family, tears are welling up in his eyes as well. And he's having these same memories I'm having just as vividly as I am. Because even though my dad's 92, he is sharp as a tack. And I'm so grateful for him. I love you, Dad. And happy, happy Father's Day. All right, so we are getting ready for our next segment in which we're going to be talking to a man who is a father, a SEAL, a husband, a budding TV star, and today he's going to be a radio star. So we'll be back in just a moment with Ed Hiner, Navy SEAL. We'll be right back. Perfect. Actually, I was a little short on that segment, but that's okay because we'll need the time, I'm sure. Yep. And then hit the red one or it's going to start up again. Okay, good. All right, Facebook live stream people. You know, I forgot to tell you, you are backstage with us. So, yeah. Oh, no. I'm on the wrong page. It was, but I guess we'll leave it where it is. Oh, you did? Oh, good. Oh, is it asking? Okay. Hello, Paula Shaw. We just found out we're not on the Change It Up Radio Facebook page, but that's okay because we like you guys too, and we'll share it to that page so it'll all get where it's supposed to go. But just one last thing before we start, I wanted to just be sure, as you probably already observed, that was my sound engineer telling me that we weren't on the page we thought we were, but. This is the making of the show, the recording of the show. So what you're going to see here is not a perfect video production, okay? You're truly backstage with us. This show is recorded today and will air on Sunday, Father's Day, the 10th, I believe it is. All right, so now this handsome man next to me is Ed Hiner, and we are about to begin. So let me just grab my notes. Okay. I think I need just a little sip of this.
All right,
and
have
then,
some water.
Sir, if you'll hit that green button, we're good.
And wrong.
Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw, brought to you by Sherry Blair, your financial consultant, whose whole passion is about empowering women to grow beautiful financial futures. You can reach Sherry at 619-997-0416 or at sherryblair.com, spelled CHERIBLAIR.com. All right. So, as promised, in this segment, I am going to be chatting with Ed Hiner, who retired just a few years back in 2012 after 20 years as a U.S. Navy SEAL. During his time in the SEALs, he's been a SEAL instructor, officer in charge of SEAL instructors at BUD/S training. We'll ask you about that. He's an officer in charge of instruction for all West Coast SEAL teams training, and training officer for all SEAL teams pre-deployment training team programs. My goodness, A lot of words and titles. He's currently serving as a coach and consultant specializing in leadership, team building, mental toughness, and personal conflict resolution. His goal is to help people understand their own fears in order to get past them so they can unleash their human potential. He's an author. He's written a book on leadership that was published by McGraw-Hill, and that book, Ed, is called?
It's called First, Fast, and Fearless. It's a bestseller, by the way.
Just
saying.
Fearless.
First, Fast, Fearless. Just saying.
I always get the words wrong. I was going to try it on my own, but I would have gone fast, first, fearless.
There's a movie that's very close to that. That's why people kind of confuse it sometimes.
I see. Yes. Okay. Being reminded to talk into my mic. All right. So, Ed, wow, let's go back over 20 years ago to what inspired you to decide you wanted to be a Navy SEAL?
Well, oddly enough, it was, I guess the word would be serendipity.
Really?
I ran into a guy, and I was helping, my friend and I were helping this lady move. She got evicted. Her husband was in the Navy on a ship in Norfolk, Virginia. And she was at a storage unit, and she had a couple kids, 3 kids actually in tow, and she had to move out. So my friend and I got her a van and got boxes and started packing her house. I met a SEAL at the storage unit, and we talked, and he volunteered to help us. And we spent about 24 hours together, and that was it.
Really?
So I went from being a stockbroker, well, I thought I was going to be a stockbroker, so I got a second interview, and then I'm like, no. So I changed it up.
Because of this SEAL that you met that helped you move this women's stuff?
Yep.
Okay, so question. What was it about him that inspired you so much you changed your whole life plan?
Well, I never really knew anything. Before all the movies and TV shows came out, you didn't know anything about SEALs.
Yeah.
But then he told me pretty much everything he did. He was a very honest guy. He was I think just a life and adventure. I was 22 years old, I think, at the time. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty neat. It's pretty fun stuff. So.
And it didn't scare you to think about all those dangerous missions and being in cold water for hours and all the things I've heard SEALs go through?
It was scary, I think, but when you're at that age, that's the time you want that adventure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all do. Like you talked about certainty and uncertainty. Well, that's a whole bunch of uncertainty right there.
So you were 22. Were you married?
No.
Okay. So you went into training as a single man.
Yep. Which I think I'm trying to figure if we even allow people that are married to go through training.
You're kidding?
No. Well, we may, but it's a very rare thing because most people don't. If you come in at 20, 22, 23 somewhere, you want them to be single. You want them to have 24 hours a day to be doing their job.
I didn't realize that was a requirement.
It's not a necessary requirement, but it's generally speaking, it's
that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, so can just anybody apply to SEALs, and if they make it through training, they get to do it?
Well, if you meet the requirements, and there's a lot of requirements, but they compete. Right now we're at about 10,000 people apply per year.
Oh my!
And we take around 1,000, and about 150 make it.
Whoa! So that's 1 out of 10.
Yeah, it's after
right?
we select. So
wow.
There are a lot of people in that sense. A lot of our guys despise the movies, the TV shows, all the publicity, but at the same time, the recruiting is astronomical
because of all
thousands and thousands per year. So our recruiting effort has went way up, more than any other force.
So once you're accepted, what happens to you?
Well, once you get in, then the fun begins. Most guys will go through their introduction to the military, their boot camp, and then they'll go to a 2-month.
Do you go to the same boot camp as everybody?
No, it's same place, but it's it's all together. So you're in one class together.
Got it.
So because there's more working out and preparation, and then after they finish their boot camp, there's a 2-month training program with professional coaches, strength coaches, mental toughness coaches, swimming coaches, and they get them ready to come here to San Diego, Coronado, and then you have a 6-month program of basic underwater demolition SEAL. That's BUDS.
Basic underwater demolition SEAL. Now, what is that? Is that just a select group of SEALs, or is that everybody?
Well, the BUDS is just the name of the course that we go at, and it's a legacy name. So basic underwater demolition used to be World War II and that kind of era. In the earlier areas, we used to have UDT teams, underwater demolition, and then we had SEALs. But now it's just SEALs.
So didn't you tell me, I think in a conversation you and I had, that when my dad was landing on the beach in Normandy, there weren't SEAls, but there were
They had scouts and raiders and underwater demolition teams.
And it was out of them
Yep.
that SEALs evolved. Is that correct?
Yep. It's 1962. President Kennedy commissioned the first SEAL teams, but we came out of that group of, we called them Naked Warriors, because they would leave from ships in the middle of the night before the invasions, and they only had bombs and fins and masks. And all the sailors were like, wow, what are these guys? Because they would swim into the beach sometimes days before the invasion, and blow up all the underwater obstacles. Oh, and they had the highest casualty rates. Nobody even knew they existed.
I trust they had wetsuits.
No. Most of the time they didn't. I mean, remember, this is the 40s, so they may have had like a partial wetsuit that it tried to work, but they didn't have it figured out.
Really?
Yeah.
So they would just really swim, not naked, but in trunks?
Just shorts, just trunks.
Just in their trunks.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So the Naked Warriors.
And they were doing that on that day, on D-Day?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every beach landing. So every major landing, we had guys on the beach. It was about a 75% casualty rate.
How do they stand the cold in the water?
Well, I mean, they would have semi-dry suits, but they didn't. Not the technology of today.
Yeah.
So they sucked it up pretty hard. They endured a lot of it.
Those were men.
They were men. They were men.
The John Wayne types.
They were, for sure, that.
Wow. Okay. So they became the SEALs. And then this training that you go through when you get, it's here in San Diego, the BUDS training?
Yeah, the BUDS training is right here, and it's been here for a very long time. And every SEAL that's been a SEAL has been through this training right here.
It may be a question you don't know an answer to, but how many, since the beginning of time, or not time, since President Kennedy commissioned SEALs to exist, do we have any idea how many men have served as SEALs?
Well, we do. It's about, counting even the World War II underwater demolition team guys, there's about 12,000 ever that served, that have went through that training. And the reason we know this is because every day, probably 5 or 10 times a day, my SEAL friends and I have a website. We have a stolen valor type environment. What
does that mean?
We find people on TV or doing different things or selling products saying they were Navy SEALs, and we look them on the data. But we can figure out in 5 or 10 minutes. And we bust them every day.
Oh, you mean they're not really SEALs?
They're not real SEALs. Busted one on Fox National News.
Really?
Eric Shawn show. Watch this show.
Good for you.
Yep. We bust them all the time.
How do you know that they're not the stuff's not real?
Well, I just learned hearing the stories. Usually, the stories they have are too good to be true, and they're more Hollywoodized in their own mind. Most SEALs won't talk the stories like normal these people will.
Yeah.
And then I can ask them 3 questions, and I'll know instantly. It's not. There's only been a few SEALs, so by your age and time you talk about going through training, I know exactly what you did or didn't do.
Oh,
yeah, it's good. So anybody that's pretending to be a SEAL, you will get caught.
Forget it, guys. You're busted if you're not the real deal.
Yeah. I think last year we had a guy put in jail for a felony.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's a felony to be impersonating?
If you make money. So he was actually had a shooting school, and he was saying he was a SEAL, so he's getting a lot of money to teach people how to shoot. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know how many years in prison he got, but it's a crime. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Especially because being a SEAL is a huge honor, and it's not easy to make that happen.
Right.
So you don't want just anybody being able to impersonate that or say that they were to increase their marketing ability, I guess, right?
That's right. And they steal from the program. They steal from the credibility of it.
Yeah.
And, valor is a very important commodity in society. Without it, who's going to fight, right? I mean, if you just water it down by some knucklehead.
Absolutely.
So.
I think you mentioned at one point to me in a conversation that a lot of what you learned in your SEAL training is what you teach now in the leadership consulting that you do. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's very correct. I took a lot of the principles, just things I'd learned over the years, best leaders I knew, and just I've been documenting them for years. Even it was part of the resiliency program. When I ran the part of the overall resiliency program, a lot of these things came to me because we were doing a lot of research on what makes people more resilient. And it's a long story, but one of the traits in this big 50-page questionnaire, it tipped. If you said poor leadership, good leadership, PTSD rates doubled on poor leadership.
Really?
So we're trying to figure out, was the chicken or egg, which one came first?
Wow.
But all we know is it was a significant amount of post-traumatic stress disorder related symptoms if it was bad leadership, self-serving type leadership.
And that makes total sense, because good leadership can make all the difference in the world, and bad leadership creates
even
a
worse.
whole different. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, my daughter is singing in this band now, and for the second time, she just dazzled me with a letter that the leader of the band wrote to her. This man is so smart, I think. He not only thanked her for some things she did, he commented specifically
right.
about what she did well, commented very specifically about what she's brought to the band. And it's like, she's cherishing those letters too. And I think whether he does this naturally or he's a well-trained leader, this man knows how to treat his people.
Right.
And what I'm hearing you say is when people are not treated well, especially in a battle situation or a war situation, of course there's more panic, there's more fear, and I could see where that would lead to more PTSD.
Yep.
Makes total sense. Total sense. Who's giving this test that you're talking about?
Well, this was the test that every single military person when they come back from overseas in a combat zone, anonymous test, so they're all honest with it. And I got access to some of that. And you could see it very clearly. Leadership was a huge one. So.
Wow. Well, we'll be talking more about Ed's work as a leadership trainer and the new television program that he's involved with, and more importantly, his experiences as a dad and a SEAL. We'll be right back. Okay.
It's funny, the next book I'm writing is all about fear.
Really?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Oh, cool.
I don't think you can say the title because I haven't worked out the deal with McGraw-Hill because I'm trying to leverage them for the TV shows. Guts.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
Greatness.
Now, everybody on Facebook.
Oh, that's good, but that's true. But,
we forget that you're there.
No, that's all right. You get the first scoop.
Now, is there any way we can move this a little bit more? Okay, because I think they want to be able to see you. So, if you can.
Hello.
All right. So when we had, first of all, I never did find a pen. Let me grab one. Anything besides the things I just mentioned that you want to be sure to cover? Oh, and we want to give them your contact info. So I think I'll do that right at the top.
Okay.
And then we'll do it again at the end of the segment. And then, okay.
Well, I've been obsessed with you're talking about that. You change people's belief system. That's all of that. If you look at our SEAL training stuff, that's what it is. It's really just. It's they have these beliefs, whatever they were given those beliefs or whatever, and we just expand those 20 times, so they feel like Superman after they leave. And that's the point of it. It's like, look, everyone has anchored beliefs. Whatever those, we just have them. And we try to. The goal is to stretch those anchors further.
Let's talk about that. Want to talk about that at the start? I love
the book's
that.
about it. It's going to be awesome. Ooh. So excited about it because I've been researching this for a long time, trying to break it down. It's really, really exciting.
Oh, cool. I know. We still have to have lunch and talk about these things too. Okay. All right.
Ready to hit it?
Yeah. You can hit that green. And this time will be 11:30. I went longer because we were short on the first one. Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio. I am in studio today with Ed Hiner, Navy SEAL, and the two of us are being brought to you by Sherry Blair, the financial consultant whose whole goal is to empower women and educate women to be wiser with their money so they can grow beautiful financial futures. Sherry can be reached at 619-997-0416 or at sherryblair.com, spelled CHERIBLAIR.com. So, Ed Hiner, if any of you are just joining us, was a Navy SEAL for over 20 years. He was also involved in training and many missions, I know, from knowing him personally. But we were just discussing on the break something that I was talking about earlier, which was that we all have these limiting subconscious beliefs. And we also, and actually we just have a lot of subconscious beliefs. They're not all limiting. Some of them are very empowering. And Ed was just saying something really interesting about that. He was saying that in SEAL training, they're actually working with that. So will you tell them a little bit more about that, Ed?
Yeah. Well, what we try to do is, we don't try, we actually do it, is through that 6-month program is, there's a lot of physical activity and stuff because we, twist the body to mold the mind is what we said. But really what we want to do.
Say that again. Twist the body.
Twist the body to mold the mind.
To mold the mind. Okay.
It's a good visual, right?
Yeah.
But so we use all that to just take their belief system, because your beliefs are anchored, and you don't know why. Did you get them from your parents? Did you get them from society? You don't really know. Most people don't even think about what their beliefs are.
That's right. And the subconscious ones, they don't know consciously, right?
Nope. So what we do is we give them physical and mental and other tasks to stretch those beliefs out. So what they do is when they leave the training, one of the unique things about it when they graduate is usually the parents, besides being, oh man, I'm so proud of little Johnny, usually the mother cries, but they get very teary-eyed because that's not little Johnny. He walks, talks, he does everything a little different. And it's, that's the change we want in people. Is this like, it's not bad. It's just not brainwashing. It's just this now his confidence level has increased significantly. And the parents can see it. And now little Johnny doesn't necessarily see it because it's intrinsic.
Right.
It's organic. So.
But he's walking a little taller, speaking a little more confidently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you want men who are Navy SEALs to be able to march out there in the world in a powerful, strong way, right?
You do, and it's not artificial. See, the important part is I tell everybody, it's like if you ask them who's the best force in the world, they could pass a polygraph test. So they honestly believe these new beliefs. And that's the important part about training is we want to stretch those.
Well, I would imagine, I don't know all the details. It might be fun if you share some of the things people have to go through in training, but I know there's like some swimming stuff that's crazy. Yeah. And so if you live through all of that, you got to feel like you're pretty special.
Well, that's the thing. I said, well, be someone special. That's the advertising market.
No kidding.
Be someone special, and it's a big
I didn't
sign.
know that. It must have been a psychic flash.
Well, you're right on it. Well, the big part of that training is what we call Hell Week, and it starts on a Sunday and it ends on a Friday evening, and you don't sleep. Well, you probably sleep for 4 hours that week.
Oh my God!
So Wednesday we give them
week?
an hour a week. Yeah. So on Wednesday, you may give them an hour, may get 20 minutes here, 15 minutes here. So the intention in that is just to push them 20 times further than they thought physically or mentally they could do. And then we at the same time burn those values into their brain when they're at that moment. You know, when they're standing there cold, wet, and miserable at 2 o'clock in the morning, soaking wet, then, we talk to them like, this is why you chose to do this. It's hard and you love it. And that's why you embrace it. And they change their beliefs, or they quit. It's either one.
So you sort of know from the inside out that you are a powerful man, that you can do whatever you're asked to do.
It's a rudimentary, like, cognitive behavioral therapist type treatment. Really? We put them through a lot of emotional stress, and then that's when we build them. Yeah. And let them know why they're important and what they're doing is very important.
So is part of it tearing them down to get rid of the old ideas? Is that a piece, or is it just building from a vulnerable state?
It's not really tearing them down. We're not like a Marine boot camp or any of that. It's not a lot. It's not as much yelling and screaming as people would imagine. It's some just methodical, hit the surf. The water's really cold. They stay wet for 6 months. So you don't have to scream. And I'll just let the physical molding twisting to actually do it for you.
Yeah, you just soften them up, keep them wet enough, and then you can mold them into anything you want.
Well, we say it's famous quotes, right? Mental and physical, exhaustion breeds cowardice, right? Because people give up mentally.
That's right. That's right.
People quit mentally, and we teach them, techniques and things to do during those moments to not to fall to that weakness. So that's actually what I'm writing about. The whole next book, the fear book. Oh, I'm very excited about it because I finally think I've cracked the code on like what it is we do. Not just surface level, but what do we really do? What is the essence of it?
And I was just saying to somebody yesterday, fear is the mind killer. It's the thing that stops us from doing what we dream of doing. It's the thing that kills relationships. It's the thing that, kind of blows everything. If we can't figure out how to work with that fear or get rid of it, it owns us.
That's exactly right. And that's books that will help people 100% with that. I'm very excited about this thing.
I'm excited too. I want to be one of the first to read it. And you have to come back
absolutely.
when you have that book.
Well, I'm asking her to contribute to it, so hold her to it.
Woohoo! Okay. And your other book, for anybody who didn't hear that earlier, is called
First, Fast, Fearless: How to Lead Like a Navy SEAL. I didn't choose the title; the publisher did, but I lost that.
I like it. Well, I think people associate Navy SEALs with leading.
Yeah, I just didn't want to use the word Navy SEAL in the book necessarily.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, well, it's part of who you are.
That's part of the resume.
Yes. And so I want to get into a little bit about when in this journey of over 20 years as a SEAL, when did you become a dad?
Well, my wife was pregnant in 2006 when I deployed.
How long had you been a SEAL at that point?
Let's see, 14 years. Is that right? Yeah, about 14 years.
Oh,
I've been in
goodness.
so counting training and stuff,
I
14
see.
years. And then,
So she knew you as a SEAL.
oh yeah.
She married a SEAL.
Yeah.
She knew exactly what she was getting into.
Well, she didn't know exactly. She thought she knew what she was getting into. Nobody really knows until you get married. But no, she did. She knew. And then my first deployment was when she was pregnant. It was a short one. It was just for an operation, a big operation we were doing. And then when he was 2, I deployed. My son was 2.5. I deployed to Afghanistan, and actually, from a small tent in the middle of nowhere, the little satellite popped up. I watched his 3rd birthday party on Skype.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Oh, my gosh.
It was pretty upsetting, actually. I was like,
I'll bet it was, because you wanted to be there.
yeah. And then we'd had a couple close calls, the days in and around that day, and it was just, you realize how much you have to lose and how much he had to lose, and he didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm. What a day. What a birthday day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could write a book just about what that experience was like, or a screenplay for sure.
Well, that's a lot of the people that are serving the military, especially the career long people, that they go through this all the time. And I've seen, a lot of children get their father's medals, after they've been killed in combat.
Oh.
And, it's just awful. I mean, it's one of the
Yeah.
most awful things I've ever been a part of, is to watch some of that stuff. And it tells you what the sacrifice these guys doing. It's not just regular, sacrificing. Hey, if I'm single and no kids, that's one thing. But when you have kids, it's horrible. So,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, and hard on them.
Yeah.
Because they're relating to that parent, usually on a screen or a phone,
Yeah.
for a lot of the time, right?
And they hope they never have to read that letter home, is what we call it.
Oh,
Right?
my God, yeah. I can't even imagine what a nightmare that would be for everybody. And there's got to be a certain element of living on pins and needles while somebody you love is deployed.
Yeah, well, they prepare in the SEAL teams. They prepare the wives. They give them briefs. They're part of the will process, which is that brings everything to the front of your mind. And the guys usually write a letter home. They seal it.
Oh,
So
So you
you're
have that
one of
all
that.
done.
If you read this, well, I'm gone.
wow.
So yeah, and then you do that over and over. It gets, after a while, it wears on you. So I know guys that have done 15 combat deployments.
Oh, my gosh. So each time you go, you would write that letter ahead of time. Wow.
Yep.
And I can't even imagine what that's like. I mean, most people listening to this show get in the car and drive to the office every day,
Yeah.
and you expect fully that your spouse is going to come home that night. But when your spouse is a Navy SEAL, every time they leave, you have no idea.
No, you don't. Not when they go. Yeah,
they
when they
will
take
be
off.
back.
Well, I actually use this in with corporations. I use the letter home theory, and they write their letters
Tell
home.
me how you do that.
Well, you get them if you want to get people how they want to live their life, because death will bring you closest to how you should be living, and most people know that. And
I love that. Could you say that one more time?
Well, death brings you closer to how you should be living.
Yeah.
So when you face it, and you face it on a constant basis, it teaches you. You don't always do it properly, but it teaches you what you should be doing in your life. And with a lot of the business executives that make a lot of money, they're very busy, they neglect their family, whatever. It's very good to write this letter home, and then they'll bring it into the workshop. They don't read it to anyone; they just have it with them,
Yeah.
and then they can review it. It's like, okay, if you want to build your own style of leadership, I bet you there's nothing negative in that letter. They probably don't say, Uncle Billy, I wish I would have beat you up and you were drunk in my house. It's about how they love their family and how much they wish they would have done better with their lives, and they wouldn't have, they would never shortcut it and stayed at work so much.
One of the things that I was thinking about in preparing for this show in Father's Day, thinking about men and what they're dealing with today, it's like there's not just the protect and provide aspect. There's especially men who are successful. It's not like, oh, I'm making it and I've got all this money. There's so much more stress on you. There's so much more to think about. You have to get better at being able to find a place where you stop, and you then move to this other segment of your life, your family and what's going on at home, and try to put the work stuff to the side for a while.
Yeah.
Not so easy to do.
Well, no, one of the 5.
Can we talk about that when we come back? Because we've got to go to break right now,
Okay.
but remember that thought. We'll be right back.
Bonnie Ware, do you know her? Bonnie Weir, Wire. She's the well, not the it's not hospice nurse, but the other nurse when people are dying. She's like at 20 years or whatever she did this, and she came up with the 5 regrets of the dying.
Well, let's talk about that.
I think it's
Hit
Bonnie
that
Weir.
button.
So Bonnie Weir, yeah, so 5 regrets. She actually is on a big speaking tour. I think she's
Really?
yeah, and Bonnie Weir, I think it is, and she does. She said like there are 5 common themes. 2 of them have to do with fear. I know that because that's what I'm writing a book about. So I'm talking about the fear, and this fear not to live my own life the way I wanted to. One of them is I work too much. You know, because you don't want to tell the vice president or the president of a company, oh, by the way, your people work too much. They don't know that.
Right.
But
that's interesting. Okay,
yeah.
the 5 regrets.
yeah.
All right. Wait 1 sec. Let me grab Sherry's info here. Okay.
Listo? All right.
Welcome back to Change It Up with Paula Shaw Radio, being brought to you by Sherry Blair, the financial consultant whose passion is to empower women to grow beautiful financial futures through educating them so they can be smarter and better and with their money, and they can make it last longer. So if you're one of those women, you need to call Sherry Blair at 619-997-0416. Or you can reach her at sherryblair.com. That's spelled CHERIBLAIR.com. And if you're driving in your car and you're unable to write any of that information down, but you'd like to reach Sherry, her information can be found on changeitupradio.com, and all more information about her in the show notes. All right, so Ed Hiner is here in studio with me, and we were just talking about that wonderful line, Ed, that you said, death brings you closer to how you should be living. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I love that, because Ed is was a Navy SEAL for over 20 years. So obviously.
Always a Navy SEAL, just saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've made that mistake before with somebody, but I wasn't a SEAL. Ed, let's start that over. Ed Hiner is a Navy SEAL now, tomorrow, and forever, all time. Especially those of you who've been with the whole show have heard some of what he talked about men go through to train as SEALs. So I can see why they want to keep that title for all time. Oh, I made that faux pas with Marines. Do they sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was married to a Marine, and we had 3 generations of Marines in the family. So I know what the pride that develops when you've been tortured, tortured and molded into this amazing thing. So, Ed, you were talking about the 5 regrets that who identified? Bonnie
Weir, I believe. I don't think I'm misspeaking, but I think it's Wire. Yeah, she was a hospice type nurse for decades, and she come up with the 5 things that people regret, and 2 of them have to do with fear, because I've been kind of looking at all this and dealing with fear and writing the book about how you address fear, because it's always cliches, right? You just got to face them. All this, this stuff that is. Exactly. Well, that helps me do nothing.
Exactly. What do I do with that?
Right. Not many people would say, well, you can change your physiology to change your mindset, which changes the way you feel, and it's a chain reaction. And in our training, we dissect that, and we don't even know we do it. Sometimes we make the soup and we didn't know it. So I've been just studying every piece of it to figure out exactly the language you use, why we use it, how it triggers your brain, what it does. All those types of things to say, no, not just face your fears and push through them. It says, no, I'll help you with little hacks, if you will, to push through that fear.
Oh, I love that. And that's going to be in your new book?
It is.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. And by the way, let's give our listeners information how they can reach you if they want to know more about you or want to find your book or any of that, the existing book.
Yeah, you can go on just edhiner.com, edhiner.com. Or
little bit slower.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm fast. edhiner.com or Ed Hiner Facebook or any of the social medias. I don't like social media as much, but I do use Facebook some. So.
All right, good. And so when your new book comes out, they'll be able to find information on any of those
yes,
sources.
It'll be there, and hopefully I can't say it yet, but maybe the television show that I'll be hosting possibly.
We can't talk about the TV show?
Well, we can't talk in detail about it because I'm in negotiations with 2 production companies.
Oh, okay.
So
But so look for more of Ed Hiner on the screen, ladies and gentlemen.
let's hope.
Let's hope. That's right. Well, we'll be pulling for you for sure.
Well, thank you.
So we were talking a little bit about you had a son and because we're kind of tying this back to being a father and a SEAL. I can't imagine how hard that would be. Were you gone a whole lot? Or was there time when you were home for big chunks?
Well, I was a different case because my son, I had him later on. So he was 5 when I retired. So I had done a lot of time overseas and stuff, but he didn't have the multiple deployments, just a couple at that time. But some dads go away like 3 or 4 months every year, maybe 6 months every year. They're gone.
Well, that's awful.
And that's, it's because, obviously we have all kinds of wars going on now and we've spread throughout the world. So it's hard to know where the guys are. And
yeah.
they're always under danger. So it's hard life.
So I would imagine that you have to be married to a very special woman who takes on a lot of this parenting while you're gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, it's absolute. I mean, it's the home front thing. It's, it's very hard on them as well because it seems like, as soon as when my son was 2.5 and I went to Afghanistan, there was a huge storm, the house flooded. A week later, a massive tree fell off and smashed through our garage. I mean, so she had multiple problems going on. The kids got colic, all the things.
And you were nowhere in sight.
Thank goodness I wasn't. No, I'm kidding.
There probably are some moments.
Yeah, sorry, I gotta go.
It's a whole lot easier being in a war zone.
Yes, it is. It's very simple.
Flood.
Not complex. It's very simple. Stay alive.
That's very true, right? Because life is complex, and especially with children. So you have one son.
One son.
And how old is he today?
11. Getting ready to graduate tomorrow, he's graduating from elementary school.
Oh, that's precious.
Yep.
Precious. And I know because yesterday when I tried to reach you, you were at the school doing some kind of duty.
Cooking.
Yep.
Flipping burgers.
Oh, how fun. Did they have like a picnic kind of a thing or something?
They did. So about probably 5 or 6 of the parents. We got a snow cone machine.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it was fun.
So you are getting to participate in those parts of life now more fully.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Don't miss any of it.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
How old was he when you were done being a SEAL?
He was 5. So right before he went into kindergarten, and then we took a 3-month driving trip across the country and saw everything you can imagine.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I've done that with my brother. What an amazing experience that is. And what a nice time for him to sort of reconnect with you and get to know you every day better and better.
And see the country. I mean, he got to see everything in America.
Oh, wow.
He still remembers a lot of it. We show him the photos to keep his memory alive.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really important. And that's such an important learning experience.
Yep.
I mean, I still remember vividly things that I drove across country from New York to California with my dad when I was, and an uncle, when I was only like 3 or 4, I believe, because we were moving to California, my sister and I. They weren't the best at doing our hair. My mother tells the story that I arrived with head lice.
Hey,
Fortunately, I did make it. They were protectors, but not beauticians.
No.
Not hairdressers. Oh, so you were talking about the 5 things that people might regret at death. So 2 of them have to do with fear. Fear what?
Yeah, one it's fear of not living. I was scared to live the life that I wanted to live, and scared of what people thought of me versus what I wanted to be. And then people. One of the top fears is, or one of the top regrets is that people work too much. Very common thing.
Oh boy!
So stop working.
Yeah, working too much.
Working too much. They always regret it.
That's true. Yeah. It's interesting. I was doing some research for another show on suicide, and one of the things, excuse me, that they were talking about is that the way we live our lives now, because we're working so hard to make it, or to make enough money to live where we want to live, that we're not having the family connection time. We're not having the fun time spent socially with friends or family or whoever. And it's taking a toll on us.
Yep.
There's a real plague of social isolation going on now that we have to get serious about.
I 100% agree. You're chasing the money and chasing those things aren't going to make you happy. And people have known it for centuries, but it's still a lesson people need to learn.
It's true. And they were saying in this article I was reading, when you finally get all of that, you're going to realize it's not enough.
It's not enough. That's right.
And it isn't the thing that gives you passion or purpose or joy, you know. And I think that I love hearing stories like that you were there flipping the burgers and being part of your son's special day on his graduation from 6th grade, is it? Fifth grade. Yeah. So, Ed Hiner, I just am so delighted that you were here today, that we've been able to talk a little bit about the new book we're looking forward to, and we're going to hold a good thought for the TV show. Can we tell them anything about that?
Well, it's going to be there's two of them possibly in the works, and there's one is going to be the leadership stuff that I do.
Oh, cool.
Hopefully at a network. Not a cable necessarily, but a network. And another one is for the History Channel, possibly to kind of go out and embed myself with certain people in certain units around the country and around the world to showcase other things.
Oh,
yeah.
Are we talking about SEAL units?
No. No SEAL units, no Special Forces units.
Oh, okay.
Other type units.
All right.
Smaller units that people don't know about. They don't get the glamour.
Well, we'll be standing by, and we'll be very excited. And thank you so much for joining me today. And again, if any of you desire to reach Ed or learn more about him, his book, First, Fast, and Fearless, I got it right, is on Amazon, best-selling book. And his website is edhiner, HINER.com. And I want to thank you for being with us on this show. And again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. You can hear Change It Up with Paula Shaw every Saturday and Sunday evening at 7 o'clock here on KCBQ, AM 1170, The Answer. We're also on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Libsyn, Omni, and SoundCloud. We're on 15 terrestrial radio stations across the country, including iHeartRadio and Blog Talk. And if you can't remember all of that, just remember, ask Alexa. She'll find us. Also, you can learn more about us on changeitupradio.com or paulashaw.com. And please go to our Change It Up Radio Facebook page and join the Change It Up Radio group. We want to know what you want to hear about on this show and what topics are important to you. So send us your questions and your desires. And again, we look forward to seeing you every week. And we look forward to next week. So take care. Bye-bye. All righty. We did it. And I think we did it like record time. Because as a SEAL, you just kept rolling. Oh dear. Excuse me, I forgot. You guys can't hear anything I say. Thank you for joining us. That is the conclusion of this show. And we will be live streaming another show shortly. So that those of you that are there, if you have another hour, please stick with us for the next Change It Up with Paula Shaw radio show. Bye-bye.